They said she was too weak to survive the rejection. They were wrong. When Lena Virek's fated mate publicly chose power over her in front of hundreds, the bond should have killed her within weeks. Instead, she did the unthinkable. She walked into enemy territory alone, collapsing at the feet of the most ruthless alpha in the north. What happened next shattered centuries of pack law and proved that the woman everyone underestimated was the most dangerous wolf they'd ever seen. If you want to see how a rejected outcast became the most feared Luna in the frontier, stay until the end. Drop your city in the comments and smash that like button. The Ridge was trying to kill her. Lena Virek knew this with the kind of clarity that comes when your body has been shutting down for 3 weeks and your wolf hasn't spoken to you in 5 days. The rocks under her boots were slick with ice, the wind cut through her coat like it wasn't there. And somewhere behind her, maybe 2 miles, maybe 10, the scouts from her old pack had finally given up the chase, or they'd assumed she was already dead. Smart Money was on dead. Her hands were numb. She couldn't feel her feet anymore. The world had narrowed to the next step, and the one after that, and the dim understanding that if she stopped moving, she would freeze before dawn. The bond scar across her chest burned like a hot wire pressed into bone, pulsing with every heartbeat, reminding her that this slow, vicious unraveling, was what happened when your fated mate rejected you in front of 300 witnesses and then refused to finish the severance. Darius Kane hadn't just rejected her. He'd left her to rot. The shattered bond was killing her degree by degree, and he knew it. They all knew it. That was the point. Lena stumbled, caught herself on a boulder, and tasted blood. She didn't remember biting her tongue. Didn't remember much of the last hour, actually. Just cold. Just the pull of the ridge, the insane idea that had sounded almost reasonable 2 days ago when she'd packed the small bag and slipped out of the healer's cabin in the dark. Cross the knife ridge. Reach the hail pack territory. Beg for asylum if you have to. Die on your feet if you can't. Anything was better than dying in that cabin, listening to the pitying whispers outside the door. Her vision blurred. She blinked hard, forced her eyes to focus, and saw it, just ahead, maybe 50 yards down the slope, the border marker. A cairn of stacked stones, weathered and ancient, standing like a silent guardian between territories. Beyond it, the land opened into a valley, and she could just make out the glow of firelight in the distance. The Hail Pack. Rowan Hale's domain. Everyone said he was cruel, unforgiving. A hard man who ruled the northern frontier with an iron fist and didn't tolerate weakness. Her own pack had fought border skirmishes with his people for a decade, back when Darius still cared about things like honor and territory. She didn't care. She just needed to cross that line before her legs gave out. 20 yards, 10, 5. The world tilted. Lena's boot caught on a root she didn't see, and suddenly she was falling, the ground rushing up to meet her, her shoulders slamming into frozen earth with a crack that knocked the air from her lungs. She rolled, tumbled, slid the last few feet on her side, and came to a stop in a graceless heap right at the base of the cairn. She tried to push herself up. Her arms wouldn't cooperate. Get up, she thought. You didn't come this far to die 3 feet from the border. Her body had other ideas. The cold was inside her now, spreading from her core, and she realized with a strange, distant calm that this might be it. She'd made it farther than anyone thought she would. Farther than she'd thought she would, if she was honest. That had to count for something. She closed her eyes. The darkness was warm, at least. Voices pulled her back. Said she just collapsed? Right at the marker. Been there maybe 10 minutes. Is she breathing? Barely. Lena tried to open her eyes. Managed it halfway. The world was a blur of shapes and shadows, firelight flickering against the trees, and then a face. Angular, hard-edged, with pale eyes that cut through the dark like a blade. Can you hear me? She tried to answer. Nothing came out but a rasp. The man? Alpha, her instinct screamed. Alpha, Alpha, Alpha. Leaned closer, and she saw the sharp lines of his jaw, the scar that ran from his temple to his cheekbone, the way his mouth was set in a grim line. He wasn't young, wasn't old, just unyielding, like the ridge itself had carved him from stone. Get the healer, he said, not looking away from her. And someone find out what pack she's from. Con pack, another voice said. Male. Uncertain. That's their mark on her jacket. Silence. Then the Alpha's voice, low and dangerous. Darius Kane let one of his people cross the knife ridge alone? Looks like it. A pause. Lena felt fingers at her throat, checking her pulse, and then the Alpha swore under his breath. She's got a bond scar, he said. Fresh, incomplete. She's rejected? Worse, it's still active. It's draining her. Someone inhaled sharply. Lena wanted to laugh. Or cry. She wasn't sure which. The bond had been draining her for 23 days. This wasn't news. This was just her life now. Until it wasn't. Why would she come here? The first voice asked. The Alpha didn't answer. He was still looking at her, and Lena realized through the haze that his eyes weren't cold. They were assessing, reading her the way you'd read a map or a weather pattern, trying to understand the terrain. Because she's not stupid, he said finally. She knew she was dying, so she made a choice. He stood, and Lena felt the ground shift as he gave orders. Bring a stretcher, get her inside, don't touch the bond scar, move now. And then she was being lifted, carefully, and carried through the trees toward the firelight. She drifted. When she surfaced again, she was inside, warm. There was a blanket over her, rough wool that smelled like pine smoke, and a fire crackling somewhere close. Her chest still burned, but the cold had receded, and she could feel her fingers again. Small victories. Drink this. A hand slid under her head, tilting it up, and a cup touched her lips. She drank without thinking, water, cool and clean, and nearly choked. Easy, the voice said. The Alpha. Rowan Hale. She was sure now. You're safe. You're in Hale territory. No one's going to hurt you. She believed him. She didn't know why, but she did. The bond, she managed. Her voice sounded like gravel. I know, he said. We'll deal with it, but you need to stabilize first. Can't sever it. He won't. I know, Rowan said again, and there was something in his voice that made her open her eyes fully for the first time. He was crouched beside the cot she was lying on, one arm resting on his knee, watching her with the same careful assessment as before. Up close, she could see the gray threading through his dark hair, the lines at the corners of his eyes. He looked like a man who'd fought 100 battles and won most of them. You're Lena Vierik, he said. It wasn't a question. She nodded. And Darius Kane rejected you in front of your pack. Another nod. But didn't finish the severance. He wanted me to feel it, she said. The words tasted like ash. Wanted everyone to see what happens when you're not good enough. Rowan's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Anger, maybe. Or disgust. That's not pack law, he said. That's cruelty. Lena laughed. It hurt. Tell him that. I will, Rowan said, and she believed that too. He stood, gestured to someone she couldn't see. Mara will look after you. Rest. Eat. We'll talk when you're stronger. Why? Lena asked. The question came out before she could stop it. Why are you helping me? Rowan paused at the door, looked back. Because you walked across the knife ridge alone, he said. And you're still breathing. That's not weakness. That's a choice. He left. Lena stared at the ceiling, at the rough beams and the firelight dancing across them, and felt something shift in her chest. Not the bond. Something else. Something that had been buried under months of humiliation and pain and the crushing weight of rejection. Anger. Clean. Sharp. Useful. She wasn't going to die here. She was going to survive. Well, the days blurred together. Mara, the healer, was a woman in her 50s with iron-gray hair and hands that never stopped moving. She checked the bond scar twice a day, applied salves that smelled like mint and something bitter, and asked questions Lena didn't always want to answer. How long since the rejection? 24 days. And he knows the bond's incomplete? Yes. Has he made any attempt to sever it? No. Mara's mouth tightened, but she didn't comment, just made notes in a leather-bound journal and adjusted the bandages. On the third day, Lena managed to sit up without the room spinning. On the fifth, she walked to the window and looked out at the valley below, a sprawl of cabins and training yards and the distant line of the forest. The Hale pack was bigger than she'd expected, more organized. There were children playing in the square, guards patrolling the perimeter, smoke rising from a dozen chimneys. It looked stable. Safe. Nothing like the chaos Darius had let fester in the Kane pack. "You're looking better," Mara said from the doorway. Lena turned. "I don't feel better." "You're standing. That's progress." "The bond's still—" "I know." Mara crossed the room, set a tray on the table. Bread, stew, tea. "But you're not dying today, or tomorrow. We're buying time." "For what?" Mara hesitated, then said, "Rowan's looking into severance options. Legal ones." Lena stared. "He can't. Darius is the bondholder. Only he can—" "There are old laws," Mara interrupted. "Forgotten laws. Rowan's digging them up." "Why?" "Because he's an alpha," Mara said simply. "And you're in his territory. That makes you his responsibility." Lena didn't know what to say to that. In the Kane pack, responsibility meant control, ownership. Darius had made that clear. But Rowan wasn't Darius. She ate the stew. It was good. Better than good. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite. "Thank you," she said. Mara smiled. "Thank Rowan. He's the one who sent me." But Rowan came to see her on the 7th day. Lena was outside, sitting on the steps of the healer's cabin, watching the pack move through their routines, training drills, patrol changes, the easy rhythm of a community that knew its place. She felt like a ghost, watching from the outside. "You're out of bed," Rowan said. She looked up. He was in work clothes, plain shirt, worn jeans, boots caked with mud. He looked tired. "I was going crazy in there," she said. He nodded, sat down beside her. Not too close, respectful of her space. "How's the pain?" "Manageable." "Don't lie to me." Lena blinked, caught off guard by the bluntness. "It's bad," she admitted, "but I've had worse." "I doubt that," Rowan said. They sat in silence for a moment. Lena watched a group of young wolves sparring in the yard, their movements sharp and controlled. She used to train like that before Darius, before everything. "I found something," Rowan said. "In the old pack accords, a clause about incomplete bonds." Lena's heart kicked. "What kind of clause?" "If a bondholder refuses to sever and the bond is causing active harm, a third-party alpha can petition for intervention. It's rare. Hasn't been used in decades, but it's there." Darius would never agree. "He doesn't have to," Rowan said. "The petition goes to the council. If they rule in your favor, the bond gets severed by force." Lena stared at him. "You'd do that? Go up against Darius for someone you barely know?" Rowan met her eyes. "Yes." "Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. "And because Darius is a piece of shit who doesn't deserve to call himself an alpha." Lena laughed. It startled both of them. But it felt good. Real. "You don't pull punches," she said. "Life's too short," Rowan said. He stood, offered her a hand. She took it, let him pull her to her feet. "Come on," he said. "I want to show you something." "Bob." He led her through the pack grounds, past the training yard and the main hall, up a narrow trail that wound into the hills. Lena's legs protested, but she kept up. She wasn't going to show weakness, not now. They stopped at a clearing overlooking the valley. The view was breathtaking, mountains in every direction, the sky wide and endless, the pack settlement far below like a scattering of toys. "This is where I come when I need to think," Rowan said, "when the noise gets too loud." Lena turned in a slow circle, taking it in. "It's beautiful." "It is," he agreed. "But it's also a reminder." "Of what?" "That we're small," Rowan said. "The packs, the politics, the power struggles. In the end, we're just small pieces of something much bigger. And if we forget that, we lose perspective." Lena looked at him. "Is that what happened to Darius? He lost perspective?" "Darius lost his spine," Rowan said bluntly. "He cares more about what people think than what's right. That's not leadership, that's cowardice." "He used to be different," Lena said quietly. "When we were younger. Before he became alpha. He was kind. Ambitious, but kind." "Power changes people," Rowan said. "Shows you who they really are." "And who are you?" Lena asked. Rowan smiled, sharp and brief. "A stubborn bastard who doesn't know when to quit." Lena laughed again. Twice in one day. It felt like a small miracle. They stood there for a while, watching the light shift across the valley, and Lena felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not hope, exactly, but maybe the possibility of hope. "I'm going to file the petition," Rowan said. "Tomorrow. It'll take a few weeks for the council to review, but I think we have a shot." "And if Darius challenges it?" "Then we deal with it," Rowan said, "one step at a time." Lena nodded. "Thank you," she said. "For this. For all of it." "Don't thank me yet," Rowan said. "This is just the beginning." He was right. 3 days later, a messenger arrived from the Kane pack. Lena was in the healer's cabin when Mara came in, her face tight. "Darius sent a formal demand," she said. "He wants you returned." Lena's stomach dropped. "On what grounds?" "Says you're still bound to him. Says you're his responsibility." "That's bullshit," Lena said. "He rejected me. He doesn't get to claim responsibility now." "Rowan's already drafting a response," Mara said. "But you should know Darius is threatening legal action. Maybe worse." Lena stood, paced to the window. Her hands were shaking. "He's not going to let this go." "No," Mara agreed. "He's not." "Because it makes him look weak," Lena said. "A rejected mate who ran to his enemy. He can't tolerate that." Mara didn't argue. Lena pressed her forehead against the glass, closed her eyes. The bond scar pulsed, a dull ache that never quite left. She'd thought crossing the ridge would be the hard part. She'd been wrong. The hard part was what came next. That night, Rowan called a meeting in the main hall. Lena wasn't invited, but she heard about it from one of the younger wolves who brought her dinner. "Alpha's telling everyone about the petition," the girl said. Her name was Sarah, and she couldn't have been more than 17. "Says Darius is going to fight it. Says we need to be ready." "Ready for what?" Lena asked. Sarah shrugged. "War, maybe, or something close to it." Lena's chest tightened. "This is my fault." "No," Sarah said firmly. "This is Darius Kane's fault. Everyone knows it. Does Rowan know it might come to that? War?" "Alpha knows everything," Sarah said, with the kind of blind confidence only the young could muster. "And he doesn't back down, not for anyone." After she left, Lena sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. She'd come here to survive, not to start a war, not to drag an entire pack into a conflict because she couldn't handle her own broken bond, but she didn't know how to stop it. The next morning, she went to find Rowan. He was in his office, a small cluttered room in the main hall, stacked with maps and books and papers. He looked up when she knocked, waved her in. "I heard about the meeting," Lena said. "Word travels fast. Sarah told me. She said Darius might retaliate." Rowan leaned back in his chair, studied her. "He might." "Then maybe I should go back," Lena said. The words came out before she could stop them. "Before this gets worse." "No." "Rowan." "No," he said again, harder this time. "You're not going back to die just to keep the peace. I don't want your pack to suffer because of me." "My pack can handle themselves," Rowan said. "And you're not the problem. Darius is." "But if I—" "Lena." He stood, came around the desk, and she realized how close he was. Close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his pale eyes, the tension in his jaw. "You walked across the knife ridge because you chose to live. Don't waste that choice now by giving up." "I'm not giving up," she said. "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protecting," Rowan said. "What I need is for you to trust me. Can you do that?" Lena hesitated, then nodded. "Good," Rowan said. "Because we're going to win this, one way or another." The council's response came 2 weeks later. They agreed to hear the petition. Lena was sitting in the healer's cabin when Mara brought her the news, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. The bond scar flared, hot and vicious, and she doubled over, gasping. "Easy," Mara said, guiding her to the bed. "Breathe, in and out." Lena forced air into her lungs, forced the pain down. "When's the hearing?" 2 months, Mara said. "They're giving Darius time to prepare a defense." 2 months, Lena repeated. 2 months of living with the bond. 2 months of waiting. She could do 2 months. She had to. The weeks crawled by. Lena grew stronger. Not all the way, the bond made sure of that, but enough to walk without collapsing, enough to help in the kitchens or the gardens. The pack didn't treat her like an outsider. They treated her like someone recovering from an injury, which she supposed she was. Rowan checked in every few days, sometimes with updates on the petition, sometimes just to talk. He was easy to be around, Lena realized. He didn't demand anything, didn't pry, just existed in the same space, solid and steady. One evening, they were walking the perimeter when she asked him, "Do you ever regret it, taking me in?" "No," Rowan said. "Why would I?" "Because it's complicated," Lena said. "Because Darius won't let it go." "Darius is a bully," Rowan said. "Bullies always push until someone pushes back. I don't mind being the one who pushes." Lena smiled. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone cold, ruthless. The stories make you sound like—" She trailed off. "A tyrant?" Rowan supplied. "Something like that." He laughed, low and rough. "I'm hard when I need to be, but I'm not cruel. There's a difference." "Darius never learned that," Lena said quietly. "No," Rowan agreed. "He didn't." They walked in silence for a while, and Lena felt the bond scar pulse, a reminder that she was still tethered to a man who'd thrown her away like garbage. But she also felt something else, something that had nothing to do with fate or bonds or destiny. She felt seen, and that was enough, for now. The first real test came on a Tuesday. Lena was in the garden behind the healer's cabin, pulling weeds from the herb beds, when she heard the commotion. Voices raised, the sharp bark of orders. She straightened dirt under her fingernails and saw a cluster of wolves gathering near the main gate. Mara appeared at her elbow. "Stay here." "What's happening?" "Pack scouts," Mara said. "At the border." Lena's stomach dropped. "How many?" "3, maybe 4. Mara's hand closed on her arm. "Lena, stay. Here." But Lena was already moving. She reached the gate just as Rowan did. He was in full alpha mode, shoulders squared, jaw set, every line of his body radiating controlled danger. The scouts stood on the other side of the border marker, close enough to see but not close enough to cross. 3 men, 1 woman, all wearing the Pack colors. And in the center, arms crossed, was Marcus Vaughn, Darius's second in command. Lena's blood went cold. Marcus had been there the night of the rejection, had stood beside Darius on the platform, silent and stone-faced, while the bond shattered and the Pack watched. He'd never been cruel to her, but he'd never been kind either. He was loyal. That was all that mattered. "Rowan Hale," Marcus called. His voice carried across the distance, flat and official. "We're here on behalf of Alpha Darius Kane." "I know why you're here," Rowan said, "and the answer is no." "You haven't heard the offer yet." "Don't need to." Marcus's mouth tightened. "Darius is willing to negotiate. He'll sever the bond cleanly. No pain, no prolonged suffering. All he asks is that Lena Virek returns to Khan territory to complete the process." Lena felt every eye turn toward her. She stepped forward, ignoring Mara's hiss of protest, and met Marcus's gaze across the distance. "No," she said. Marcus blinked. "Lena." "I said no." "You don't understand," Marcus said, and there was something almost pleading in his voice now. "Darius is offering you a way out, a clean break. You won't survive much longer with the bond intact. You know that." "I know he should have severed it weeks ago," Lena shot back. "I know he let me suffer because it was easier than admitting he was wrong. So no, Marcus, I'm not going back." "This isn't about pride," Marcus said. "This is about survival." "Then he should have thought of that before he rejected me in front of 300 people. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Marcus looked at Rowan. "She's not thinking clearly. The bond is affecting her judgment." "Her judgment is fine," Rowan said, "and she gave you her answer." "Darius won't accept this. He doesn't have a choice." Marcus's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake, Hale. Darius has been patient, but if you push this, if you force the council hearing, he will retaliate." "Let him try," Rowan said. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Marcus turned on his heel, gestured to the other scouts, and they disappeared into the trees. Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Rowan turned to her. "Inside, now!" The office was too small for the anger radiating off him. Rowan paced, hands clenched, while Lena stood by the door and tried not to flinch. You shouldn't have been out there, he said. I had a right to be. You had a right to stay safe, Rowan snapped. If Marcus had crossed that line, he wouldn't have. You don't know that. I know Marcus, Lena said. He follows orders. He doesn't improvise. Rowan stopped pacing, looked at her. That's not the point. Then what is? The point is you're not expendable, Rowan said, and the words came out rough, almost raw. You matter, and I need you to start acting like it. Lena stared at him. No one had ever said that to her before. Not like that. Not like they meant it. I'm not trying to be reckless, she said quietly, but I'm not going to hide either. This is my fight, Rowan. Not just yours. He exhaled, ran a hand through his hair. I know. But if something happens to you while you're under my protection, nothing's going to happen. You can't promise that. Neither can you, Lena said, but I trust you anyway. That stopped him. He looked at her for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression, something softer. You're stubborn, he said. So are you. A ghost of a smile. Fair enough. He crossed to the desk, braced his hands on it. Darius is escalating. The offer was a test. He wanted to see if you'd break. I didn't. No, Rowan agreed. You didn't. But that means he's going to try something else, something worse. Lena's chest tightened. Like what? I don't know yet, Rowan said, but we need to be ready. The pack started training harder after that. Lena watched from the edges, her body still too weak for combat drills, but her mind cataloging every move, every formation. Rowan ran them through scenarios, border breaches, ambushes, coordinated attacks. He was methodical, relentless, and the pack responded with the kind of discipline that came from absolute trust. She envied that, the trust, the certainty. In the Kane pack, people had followed Darius out of fear or ambition. Here, they followed Rowan because he'd earned it. On the fourth day, Sarah found her sitting on the steps of the training yard. You should join us, the girl said. Lena shook her head. I'm not strong enough. You don't have to fight, Sarah said. But you could learn the formations, strategy. That's half the battle anyway. Lena hesitated, then nodded. Sarah grinned, grabbed her hand, and pulled her into the yard. Rowan raised an eyebrow when he saw her but didn't comment. Just adjusted the drill to include her, walking her through the basics, where to stand, how to read the field, when to fall back. It was humbling. She'd been a decent fighter once, before Darius, before the bond. Now she felt like a novice. But she learned. And when the session ended, Rowan caught her arm. You did good. I barely kept up. You kept up, he said. That's what matters. Lena looked at him, at the sweat on his brow and the dirt on his boots, and felt something warm unfold in her chest. Gratitude? Maybe. Or something closer to respect. Thank you, she said. For what? For not treating me like I'm broken. Rowan's expression softened. You're not broken, Lena. You're healing. There's a difference. The council's formal summons arrived 3 weeks later. Lena was in the kitchens when Mara came to get her, her face pale. Rowan needs you. Now! She found him in the main hall, a letter spread on the table in front of him. He didn't look up when she entered. What is it? She asked. The hearing's been moved up, Rowan said. 2 weeks instead of 2 months. Lena's heart kicked. Why? Darius filed a counterpetition. He's claiming you fled under duress, that I'm holding you against your will. That's insane. It's strategy, Rowan said. He's trying to frame this as a kidnapping instead of a rescue. If the council believes him, they'll rule in his favor and force you back. Lena sank into a chair. So what do we do? We prove he's lying, Rowan said. We show the council exactly what he did to you, the incomplete bond, the suffering, all of it. They won't care, Lena said. They'll see a rejected mate and a territorial dispute. That's all this is to them. Then we make them care, Rowan said. He looked at her, his eyes fierce. You're going to testify in front of the council, and you're going to tell them everything. Lena's breath caught. Rowan, I know it's hard, he said, but it's the only way. She thought about standing in front of the council, alphas from a dozen packs, all of them watching, judging. Thought about reliving the rejection, the humiliation, the slow burn of the bond eating her alive. Thought about Darius sitting across from her, smug and untouchable. "I'll do it," she said. Rowan's shoulders relaxed. "You're sure?" "No," Lena admitted, "but I'll do it anyway." The next 2 weeks were a blur. Rowan prepared her for the hearing, what to say, how to say it, what questions to expect. He was patient but firm, pushing her to be precise, to stay calm, to not let Darius rattle her. "He'll try to make you look unstable," Rowan said during one session. "Emotional, irrational. Don't give him the ammunition." "How do I do that?" Lena asked, "when everything he did was designed to break me?" "You focus on the facts," Rowan said. "The timeline, the bond scar, the witnesses. Let the evidence speak for itself." It sounded simple. It wasn't. At night, Lena lay awake, her mind spinning through worst-case scenarios. What if the council sided with Darius? What if they forced her back? What if the bond killed her before she ever got the chance to fight? The bond scar pulsed, a constant reminder that time was running out. On the 10th day, she broke. She was alone in the healer's cabin when the pain spiked, sharp and vicious, like claws raking through her chest. She gasped, doubled over, and felt the world tilt. Her wolf, silent for weeks, stirred weakly, a flicker of presence that vanished as quickly as it came. She didn't remember falling, just the cold floor against her cheek and the sound of her own ragged breathing. When she opened her eyes, Rowan was there. He was kneeling beside her, one hand on her shoulder, his face tight with something that looked like fear. "Lena, can you hear me?" She nodded, barely. "The bond?" he asked. "Yeah." He swore, low and vicious, and scooped her up like she weighed nothing. She wanted to protest, but her body wouldn't cooperate. He carried her to the bed, set her down carefully, and called for Mara. The healer arrived within minutes, her bag already in hand. She worked quickly, checking Lena's pulse, examining the scar, applying a salve that smelled sharp and medicinal. "It's accelerating," Mara said quietly. "The incomplete bond is destabilizing." "How long?" Rowan asked. Mara hesitated. "A month. Maybe less." Lena closed her eyes. "A month." She'd known it was coming, but hearing it out loud made it real. "The hearing's in 4 days," Rowan said. Will she make it?" "If she rests," Mara said, "and if the bond doesn't spike again." "It will," Lena said. Her voice came out hoarse. "It always does." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Then we move faster." The hearing was held in neutral territory, a clearing halfway between the Kane and Hale lands, where the council convened for disputes. 7 alphas sat in a semicircle, their expressions ranging from bored to skeptical. Darius stood on one side, flanked by Marcus and 2 other advisors. Rowan stood on the other, with Lena beside him. She'd dressed carefully that morning. Simple clothes, nothing flashy, her hair pulled back to show the bond scar clearly. Rowan had told her to make them see the damage, to make it impossible to ignore. The head counselor, an older alpha named Garrett, called the session to order. "We're here to address the petition filed by Alpha Rowan Hale regarding the incomplete bond between Lena Vierek and Alpha Darius Kane," Garrett said. His voice was dry, bureaucratic. "Alpha Kane, you have the floor." Darius stepped forward. He looked every inch the powerful Alpha, tall, broad-shouldered, his dark hair perfectly styled. He smiled, easy and confident. "Thank you, Counselor," he said. "This petition is based on a fundamental misunderstanding. Lena Vierek chose to leave my pack of her own accord. I did not force her out. And while I regret the circumstances of our bond's end, I have offered repeatedly to sever it cleanly. She has refused." Lena's hands clenched. "Furthermore," Darius continued, "I believe she is being manipulated by Alpha Hale, who has a well-documented history of antagonism toward my pack. This is not about Lena's well-being. This is about undermining my authority." Rowan's expression didn't change, but Lena felt the anger radiating off him. Garrett looked at Rowan. "Your response?" Rowan stepped forward. "Lena Vierek came to my territory because she was dying, because Alpha Khan rejected her publicly, refused to complete the severance, and left her to suffer. She didn't flee. She survived, and she has every right to seek protection under pack law." "She's still bonded to me," Darius said. "That makes her my responsibility." "You forfeited that responsibility when you rejected her," Rowan shot back. I offered to fix it. By forcing her to return to the place where you humiliated her? Rowan's voice was hard. That's not a solution. That's a power play. Darius's smile slipped. You're making this personal, Hale. You made it personal the moment you let her walk across the knife ridge alone. Garrett raised a hand. Enough. We'll hear from Lena Virek. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs. She stepped forward, felt every eye in the clearing lock onto her. Garrett's gaze was neutral. Miss Virek, tell us in your own words what happened. She took a breath. Darius and I were fated mates. The bond formed when I was 22. For 3 years, we kept it private because he said the pack wasn't ready. But when it finally came out, he rejected me, publicly, in front of everyone. He said I wasn't strong enough to be his Luna, that I would weaken his position. One of the counselors frowned. And the severance? He refused to complete it, Lena said. He said I needed to learn the consequences of my inadequacy. The bond stayed active, incomplete. It's been killing me for 2 months. Why didn't you petition for severance yourself? Another counselor asked. Because I had no standing, Lena said. I'm not an alpha. I have no rank, and Darius made it clear that any attempt to challenge him would be met with exile. Darius laughed, cold and sharp. That's not true. Lena looked at him. Then why didn't you sever it, Darius? If you wanted me gone so badly, why drag it out? I was giving you time to adjust, he said smoothly. You were punishing me, Lena said, for existing. The clearing went silent. Garrett leaned forward. Miss Virek, do you have any proof of Alpha Kane's refusal to sever? Lena hesitated, then said, I have witnesses. People who heard him say it. People who saw what he did. Names? She listed them. 3 pack members who'd been present the night of the rejection. 2 healers who'd treated her in the weeks after, all of them still in Kane territory. Darius's expression darkened. Those people are loyal to me. Their testimony is biased. Then let's bring them here, Rowan said. Let the council hear them directly. Garrett considered. We'll summon the witnesses. This hearing is adjourned until we can verify the claims. Darius's jaw tightened. This is a waste of time. This is due process, Garrett said. We reconvene in 3 days. The walk back to Hale territory was tense. Lena could feel Rowan's frustration, the way his hands kept clenching and unclenching. You did well, he said finally. It didn't feel like it. You stood up to him, Rowan said, in front of the council. That takes guts. Lena laughed, bitter. It takes desperation. Same thing sometimes. They walked in silence for a while. Then Lena said, What if the witnesses don't come? What if Darius stops them? He won't, Rowan said. The council's summons carries weight. If he interferes, it'll look like he's hiding something. And if they lie? Rowan stopped, turned to face her. Then we fight harder. Lena wanted to believe him, but the bond scar was burning again, a reminder that time was slipping away. The witnesses arrived 2 days later, all 5 of them. Lena recognized them immediately. Kara, the healer who'd first treated her bond scar. Ivan, a guard who'd been on duty the night of the rejection. Elise, a kitchen worker who'd brought her food when she was too weak to leave the cabin, and 2 others whose names she'd forgotten, but whose faces she remembered. Rowan brought them to the main hall, offered them food and water. They looked nervous, scared. Thank you for coming, Rowan said. Kara nodded. She was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and steady hands. We didn't have much choice, but we wanted to help. Darius doesn't know you're here? Lena asked. He knows, Ivan said. He was a big man, scarred and rough around the edges. But he can't stop us. Council law. He's not happy, Elise added. She was small, mousy, her voice barely above a whisper. He threatened us. Said if we testified against him, we'd be exiled. Lena's stomach twisted. I'm sorry. Don't be, Kara said. What he did to you was wrong. We all knew it. We just couldn't say it before. Why now? Rowan asked. Kara met his eyes. Because someone finally gave us the chance. The second hearing was brutal. Garrett called the witnesses one by one. Kara went first. She described the bond scar in clinical detail, the depth, the infection, the way it refused to heal because the bond was still active. She testified that Darius had visited Lena once, 3 days after the rejection, and told her the severance would happen when he was ready. Ivan corroborated this timeline. Described the night of the rejection, the way Darius had stood on the platform and announced that Lena was unfit to stand beside an alpha. Described the crowd's reaction: shock, pity, some cruel laughter. Elise spoke about the aftermath, how Lena had stopped eating, how she'd grown weaker by the day, how people whispered that she wouldn't last the month. By the time the last witness finished, Darius's face was stone. Garrett looked at him. "Alpha Khan, do you dispute these accounts?" "I dispute their interpretation," Darius said. "I never intended to harm Lena. I was trying to protect my pack." "By leaving her to die?" Rowan said. "By making a hard choice," Darius snapped. "Leadership requires sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" Lena said. Her voice cut through the clearing like a blade. "You sacrificed nothing, Darius. You threw me away because it was easier than defending me." Darius's eyes flashed. "You were a liability." "I was your mate." "You were weak," Darius said. And there it was. The truth, stripped bare. "You didn't have the strength to lead beside me. The pack would have seen it as weakness." "So you made me the example," Lena said. "You broke me to prove a point." "I did what I had to do." The silence that followed was suffocating. Garrett looked at the other counselors. They conferred quietly. Then he turned back to the clearing. "We've heard enough," he said. "The council will deliberate and deliver a ruling tomorrow." Check. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She paced the healer's cabin, the bond scar burning like fire, and tried not to think about what would happen if the council ruled against her. Tried not to imagine being dragged back to Kane territory, forced to stand before Darius one more time. A knock at the door. She opened it. Rowan stood there, still in his hearing clothes, his face drawn. "I thought you might need company," he said. Lena stepped aside, let him in. He sat on the edge of the bed, and she took the chair by the window. "What do you think they'll decide?" she asked. "I don't know," Rowan said. "Garrett's fair, but the council has politics to consider." "And if they rule for Darius?" Rowan looked at her. "Then we fight." "You can't fight the council." "Watch me," Lena laughed, raw and tired. "You're insane." "Maybe," Rowan said, "but I meant what I said. You're not going back." She believed him, and that scared her almost as much as the bond. The ruling came at dawn. The council reconvened in the clearing, and Lena stood beside Rowan, her heart hammering. Darius looked calm. Too calm. Garrett stood. After careful deliberation, the council has reached a decision. The evidence presented demonstrates that Alpha Darius Kane acted within his rights to reject a bond. However, his refusal to complete the severance constitutes negligence under pack law. Therefore, we rule in favor of Lena Virek. The bond will be forcibly severed by a neutral party within 48 hours. Lena's knees almost gave out. Darius's face went white. "This is a mistake." "This is justice," Garrett said. "The ruling is final." Darius turned, his eyes locking on Lena, and for the first time she saw something like desperation there. "You think you've won," he said quietly, "but this isn't over." Rowan stepped between them. "Yes, it is." Darius smiled, thin and cold. "We'll see." And then he was gone, his people trailing after him into the trees. Lena exhaled, felt the weight of 2 months crash down on her all at once. Rowan caught her before she fell, his arms steady and sure. "You did it," he said. "We did it," Lena corrected. He smiled, and for one brief, shining moment, she let herself believe it was over. She should have known better. She should have known better. The severance was scheduled for the following evening. Neutral ground again? A council-appointed healer who specialized in bond magic, witnesses from 3 packs to ensure it was done cleanly. Lena spent the day in a fog, half convinced she'd wake up and find it had all been a dream. The bond scar pulsed, weaker now, as if it knew its time was coming. Rowan stayed close, not hovering, just present. He walked her through what to expect, the ritual, the pain, the hollow feeling that would come after when the bond finally released its grip. "It'll hurt," he said. They were sitting on the steps of the main hall, watching the pack go about their evening routines. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Worse than anything you've felt so far, but it'll be fast, and then it's over. And then I'm free, Lena said. Yeah. She looked at him, at the way the fading light caught the sharp line of his jaw, the scar that bisected his temple. He'd fought for her, risked everything, and she still didn't fully understand why. Thank you, she said, for everything. Rowan's expression softened. You don't need to thank me. I do, Lena said. You didn't have to help me. You could have turned me away at the border. No, Rowan said quietly. I couldn't have. Something passed between them in that moment, unspoken, fragile. Lena felt it settle in her chest, warm and unfamiliar. Not a bond, something simpler, something real. Before she could name it, Sarah came running across the yard, her face pale and her breath coming in gasps. Alpha, she said, skidding to a stop. Scouts just reported movement at the eastern border. Cane pack. A lot of them. Rowan was on his feet instantly. How many? 20, maybe more. They're not trying to hide it. Lena's blood went cold. Darius. He wouldn't be that stupid, Rowan said, but his jaw was tight and his hands had already curled into fists. The council ruled. If he attacks now, he doesn't care, Lena interrupted. He never has. The ruling humiliated him in front of every alpha in the region. He's not going to let it stand. Rowan swore, turned to Sarah. Get everyone inside. Full lockdown. No one crosses the perimeter without my direct order. Double the guards on the western and southern borders. Sarah nodded and sprinted off, already shouting orders to the nearest wolves. Rowan looked at Lena, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For her. Go to the healer's cabin, he said. Stay there. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone except me or Mara. Rowan. Lena. His voice was sharp, commanding. This is not a debate. If Darius is coming, you're the target. I need you safe. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she could fight, could help, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about control. It was about something deeper, something that made her chest ache. Okay, she said, but if something happens, nothing's going to happen, Rowan said. He gripped her shoulder, brief and firm, his hand warm even through her jacket. I promise. She didn't believe him, but she went. Yes. The healer's cabin felt like a cage. Lena paced from the window to the door and back again, her hands shaking, while Mara checked the locks on the windows and shutters. Outside, she could hear the pack mobilizing, voices shouting orders, the clatter of weapons being distributed, boots pounding against frozen ground, the low hum of tension that always preceded violence. Sit down, Mara said without looking up. You're going to wear a hole in the floor. I can't just sit here, Lena said. Her voice came out higher than she intended. If Darius is out there, if he gets past Rowan, then Rowan will handle it, Mara said firmly. She finished with the last shutter and turned to face Lena. That's what alphas do. They protect their people. Rowan shouldn't have to fight my battles. It's not just your battle anymore, Mara said. The moment Darius crossed into Hale territory with hostile intent, it became Rowan's fight too. That's pack law. Lena sank into a chair, pressed her palms against her eyes. The bond scar throbbed, a dull ache that had been her constant companion for so long she'd almost forgotten what it felt like to be without it. Almost. What if the severance doesn't work? She asked suddenly. The question had been gnawing at her for days, but she hadn't dared voice it until now. Mara looked at her, one eyebrow raised. Why wouldn't it? What if Darius fights it? What if he refuses to let go? He can't, Mara said. Once the council healer starts the ritual, it's out of his hands. The bond will sever whether he wants it to or not. That's how the magic works. But what if... A howl split the night, long and mournful and much too close. Lena was on her feet before she realized she'd moved. Mara grabbed her arm. Don't. That was close, Lena said. Her heart was slamming against her ribs. Too close. Another howl, and then the sound of breaking glass somewhere in the distance. Shouts. The sharp crack of something wooden splintering. Mara's face went white. Stay here. Don't move. She disappeared into the back room where she kept her supplies. Lena stood frozen in the middle of the cabin, every instinct screaming at her to run, to hide, to do something. The bond scar flared, hot and vicious, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. Then the door exploded inward. Lena stumbled back, her shoulder hitting the wall, her heart in her throat. 3 wolves filled the doorway, all cane pack, their eyes glowing amber in the dim light, their lips pulled back to show teeth. And behind them, stepping through the wreckage like he owned the place, was Darius. He looked the same, tall, handsome, perfectly composed. Dark hair swept back from his face, broad shoulders filling out his jacket, every inch the powerful alpha. Except now there was something wild in his eyes, something unhinged that she'd never seen before. "Hello, Lena," he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. Her body had locked up, every muscle frozen. Darius smiled. "You didn't really think I'd let you go, did you?" "The council ruled," Lena managed. Her voice came out thin and shaky. "You can't—" "The council doesn't rule me," Darius said. He stepped closer, glass crunching under his boots. The 3 wolves fanned out, blocking any possible escape route. "I told you this wasn't over. Did you think I was bluffing?" "Rowan will—" "Rowan is busy," Darius interrupted. "My people are keeping him occupied on the western perimeter. A lovely little distraction. By the time he realizes where I really am, you'll be long gone." Lena's stomach dropped. It was a diversion. The eastern border movement had been a decoy, and she'd walked right into it. "This is kidnapping," she said, forcing strength into her voice. The council will do nothing," Darius said, "because you're going to come with me willingly. You're going to tell them you changed your mind, that you realized you belong with your true mate, that Rowan coerced you, manipulated you, took advantage of your weakened state." "I'd rather die." Darius's smile disappeared. His hand shot out faster than she could track, closing around her throat, and he slammed her back against the wall. Her feet left the floor. She clawed at his wrist, gasping, but his grip was iron. "That can be arranged," he said softly. His face was inches from hers, and she could see the rage burning behind his eyes. "I gave you a choice, Lena. I was going to be merciful, but you just keep fighting." "Go to hell," Lena choked out. Still defiant, Darius said, almost conversational. "You always were stubborn. It's one of the things I hated most about you." "Good," Lena rasped. Black spots were dancing at the edges of her vision. "Hate me. Just let me go." "Let you go?" Darius laughed, cold and bitter. "I gave you everything. Power, status, a future as my Luna, and you threw it away for what? For him? For some frontier alpha who barely controls his own territory?" "You gave me nothing," Lena managed. Her voice was barely a whisper now. "You took everything I had and told me I wasn't enough." "Because you weren't," Darius hissed. His grip tightened. "You were weak, soft. You would have made me look weak. The pack would have seen it as a liability." "So you made me the example," Lena said. Tears were streaming down her face now, hot and angry. "You broke me to prove a point. I did what I had to do. Let her go." Mara stood in the doorway to the back room, a shotgun leveled at Darius's head. Her hands were steady, her eyes cold. Darius looked over his shoulder and laughed. "You're not going to shoot me, old woman." "Try me," Mara said. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. The 3 wolves shifted, growling low in their throats. Darius's hand was still around Lena's throat, but his attention was divided now. "You have 3 seconds to let her go," Mara said. 1. "Or what?" Darius said. "You'll shoot me in front of witnesses? That's execution. The council will have your head." 2. "You don't have the spine." 3. Darius sighed. "Fine. Have it your way." He released Lena, and she collapsed, gasping and coughing. Before she could recover, Darius moved, faster than any human should be able to move. He gestured, and one of the wolves lunged at Mara. The shotgun went off, a deafening crack that shattered the window behind Darius and sent glass spraying across the room. The wolf hit Mara mid-chest, and they went down in a tangle of limbs. The shotgun skittered across the floor. Darius grabbed Lena by the arm, hauled her to her feet with brutal efficiency, and dragged her toward the door. "Let me go!" Lena screamed. She twisted, kicked, threw her weight backward, but his grip was unbreakable. "Mara!" "She's fine," Darius said, not even breathing hard. "More than you'll be if you don't stop fighting." They were outside now, the cold air biting at her skin. Lena could see the chaos unfolding across the pack grounds, fires burning in at least 3 locations, wolves fighting in the shadows, the clash of teeth and claws and desperate shouts. Rowan was nowhere in sight. Darius dragged her toward the tree line, and Lena knew with horrible certainty that if he got her across the border into Kane territory, it was over. The council wouldn't intervene in internal pack matters. Rowan couldn't follow without declaring war. She'd be trapped. She did the only thing she could think of. She bit down on Darius's hand as hard as she could, tasting blood. He roared, a sound more animal than human, and his grip loosened just enough. Lena wrenched free and ran. She didn't have a plan. Didn't have a weapon. Just raw, animal panic driving her legs. She could hear Darius behind her, his footsteps heavy and fast, his breathing harsh. But she didn't look back. She just ran, weaving between trees, her lungs burning. The bond scar exploded with pain, white-hot and vicious, and she stumbled. Caught herself on a low branch. Kept going. Her wolf stirred somewhere deep inside, weak, barely there, but present. For the first time in weeks. Shift, she thought desperately. Please, come on, shift. Nothing. The wolf was too weak, the bond damage too severe. Darius's hand closed on her shoulder, spun her around with enough force to make her teeth rattle, and slammed her into a tree trunk. Her head cracked against the bark, and the world went white with pain. When her vision cleared, he was inches from her face, his eyes wild. "You can't run from me," he said. His voice was rough, ragged. "You can't hide. You're mine, Lena. The bond says so. Fate says so. You've always been mine." "No," Lena said. Blood ran down her temple, warm and wet, dripping into her eye. "I was never yours. You threw me away, remember?" Darius's eyes flashed. "Then you're nothing." He raised his hand, to strike her, to drag her away, she didn't know. And then something massive and silver hit him from the side like a freight train. Lena hit the ground hard, rolled, scrambled to her knees, and looked up to see Rowan, not human anymore, but wolf, huge and snarling and furious, tearing into Darius with a ferocity that made the air vibrate. Darius shifted mid-fall, his human form blurring into his wolf, and suddenly there were 2 massive wolves locked in combat, teeth snapping for throats, claws raking flesh, blood spraying across the frozen ground. Lena scrambled backward, her heart in her throat, unable to look away. "Lena!" Someone grabbed her arm. Sarah, her face streaked with soot and dirt, her eyes wide. "We have to go, now!" "Rowan, he's got this," Sarah said, already pulling her to her feet. "But we need to get you out of here before more of them show up." Lena let herself be pulled away, but she couldn't stop looking back. Rowan and Darius were evenly matched, both alphas, both powerful, both fighting with everything they had. But Darius fought dirty, going for the eyes and the soft belly, while Rowan fought like he had something to lose. They reached the main hall. Inside, the pack had barricaded the doors and windows, and wounded wolves were being treated on makeshift cots dragged in from storage. The air smelled like blood and smoke and fear. Mara was there, blood on her sleeve but alive, barking orders at 2 younger healers. "Thank the stars," she said when she saw Lena. She grabbed Lena's face, turned it to check the gash on her temple. "Are you hurt? Besides this?" "I'm fine," Lena lied. Her head was pounding, her vision kept blurring at the edges, and the bond scar felt like it was trying to claw its way out of her chest from the inside. "Rowan's still out there, with Darius. He'll win," Mara said, but her voice wavered and she didn't meet Lena's eyes. Lena sank onto a bench, pressed her hands to her face. This was her fault. All of it. If she'd never crossed that ridge, never stumbled into Hale territory, Rowan wouldn't be out there risking his life. His pack wouldn't be under attack. Good people wouldn't be bleeding on these cots. "I need to end this," she said. "What?" Sarah stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Darius wants me," Lena said, looking up. "That's all he's ever wanted. If I go to him, if I offer myself in exchange for stopping this—" "Absolutely not," Mara snapped. "That's suicide. He'll take you and kill everyone here anyway." "But if I don't—" "Rowan would never allow it," Mara said, "and neither will I." "Rowan's not here," Lena said. She stood, ignoring the way the room tilted dangerously. "And I'm done hiding while other people fight my battles." Lena, but she was already moving toward the door. Sarah tried to grab her, but Lena was faster, fueled by adrenaline and desperation and the growing certainty that this was the only way. She stepped outside. The fight was still raging when she found them. Rowan and Darius had shifted back to human form, both too exhausted or too injured to maintain their wolf shapes. They circled each other in a clearing littered with broken branches and churned earth, both bloodied and breathing hard. Darius's shirt was torn and dark with blood. Rowan's face was a mask of cuts and bruises. A crowd had gathered at the edges of the clearing, wolves from both packs, watching in tense, electric silence. This wasn't just a fight anymore. It was something older, something primal. "Rowan," Lena called. He turned and his eyes went wide with shock and anger. "Lena, get back!" "No," she said. She stepped into the clearing and every eye locked on her. The crowd went silent. "This ends now." Darius laughed, raw and bitter and half mad. "Finally, some sense." "Lena," Rowan said, his voice low and dangerous and edged with something like panic. "Don't do this." But she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Darius, at the man who'd once promised her forever and then crushed her under his heel. "You want me?" she said. Her voice rang clear across the clearing. "Fine, but not like this, not with bloodshed, not with his pack paying for your pride." Darius tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. "What are you proposing?" "A trial," Lena said. The words came out steady, sure, even though her knees were shaking. "An alpha trial. You and Rowan. Winner takes all." The crowd murmured, a ripple of shock moving through both sides. "Lena, no," Rowan said. He took a step toward her. "You don't know what you're asking." "It's the law," Lena said, finally meeting his eyes. "Ancient law. You challenged for me. He challenged back, so finish it. Properly. In front of witnesses. Let the strongest alpha win." Darius was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, slow and cruel and triumphant. "I accept." "Lena," Rowan started. She crossed to him, lowered her voice so only he could hear. "Trust me, please." He stared at her, blood dripping from a cut above his eye, his chest heaving. "This is insane." "I know," she whispered, "but it's the only way to make it legitimate. If you win, the council can't question it, and Darius can't come back." "And if I lose?" "You won't," Lena said. She didn't know where the certainty came from, but it filled her chest, warm and solid. "I know you won't." Rowan held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded, once. The crowd pulled back, forming a wide circle. Rowan and Darius stepped into the center, both battered but still standing. Someone, she didn't see who, threw 2 knives into the dirt between them. Trial rules. No shifts. Weapons allowed. Fight until one yields or dies. And Lena stood at the edge of the circle, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs, praying she hadn't just made the worst mistake of her life. The fight was brutal. Darius grabbed his knife first, quick and practiced, and came at Rowan with a flurry of strikes that would have gutted a lesser fighter. But Rowan was ready. He dodged, parried, grabbed his own knife, and met Darius blow for blow. They moved like dancers, violent, graceful, each anticipating the other's moves. Blood flew. The crowd was silent except for the occasional gasp or sharp intake of breath. Lena couldn't watch, couldn't look away. The bond scar pulsed with every hit Darius took, a sick feedback loop that made her stomach churn and her vision blur. She could feel his rage through the connection, his desperation, his refusal to accept that he might lose. He was fighting like a man with nothing left to lose. Rowan drove him back, step by step, his attacks relentless. Darius stumbled, caught himself, and came back swinging. His knife caught Rowan's shoulder and blood bloomed dark against his shirt. Lena bit back a scream. Rowan didn't slow. He pivoted, brought his knee up into Darius's ribs with a crack that echoed across the clearing. Darius went down, rolled, came up slashing. Rowan blocked, twisted, and sent Darius's knife flying. Now it was just fists. They grappled, crashed to the ground, rolled in the dirt. Rowan ended up on top, his forearm pressed across Darius's throat, his weight pinning him down. "Yield!" Rowan growled. Darius spat blood. "Never!" Rowan pressed harder. Darius's face was turning red, then purple. "Yield, or I end this." For a moment, Lena thought Darius would let himself die rather than submit. She could see it in his eyes, the calculation, the pride, the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Then something broke. Something final and irrevocable. "I yield," he rasped. Rowan released him immediately, stood, stepped back. Darius lay in the dirt, gasping for air, utterly defeated. The crowd erupted. Cheers from the Hale Wolves, shocked silence from the Khan pack. Someone grabbed Lena, and she realized it was Sarah, hugging her and crying. "It's over," Sarah said. "You won. You both won." But Lena was staring at Darius, at the broken alpha who'd once been her everything, and she felt nothing, no triumph, no satisfaction, just a vast, echoing emptiness. Rowan crossed to her, his face bruised and swollen, blood still dripping from a dozen cuts. He looked like he'd been through a war. Maybe he had. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded, couldn't speak. He pulled her into his arms, careful of her injuries, careful of everything, and she buried her face in his chest and finally let herself shake. "It's over," he said softly. "I promise. It's over." She wanted to believe him. But it wasn't over. The Kane Wolves were helping Darius to his feet, preparing to leave, when Lena felt it. A shift. Deep in her chest, like something breaking open. The bond scar flared, not with pain, but with something else. Something wild and electric and completely unfamiliar. Her wolf surged. Lena gasped, her hands flying to her chest. Rowan caught her. "Lena, what's wrong?" "I don't—" The shift took her before she could finish the sentence. She'd been wolfless for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like. The snap of bones reforming, the rush of fur sprouting, the world sharpening into crystalline focus as her senses expanded. But this was different, stronger. Her wolf wasn't just present, it was awake. Fully, completely awake for the first time in her life. She hit the ground on 4 paws, and the crowd went absolutely silent. Lena looked down at herself and froze. Her fur was silver, pure, shining silver, like moonlight made solid. "Stars above," someone whispered. Rowan was staring at her, his expression somewhere between awe and disbelief. And then the murmurs started, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. Silver Wolf, the legends, the bloodline that had vanished from the pack centuries ago, thought to be extinct. Lena shifted back, her hands shaking violently. She was kneeling in the dirt, naked except for someone's jacket that had been thrown over her shoulders. Rowan was still staring. "What just happened?" she asked. Her voice came out hoarse. "You're a silver wolf," Rowan said quietly. There was something in his voice she couldn't identify. "Do you know what that means?" "No. It means you're not just some rejected mate," Rowan said. He knelt beside her, his eyes searching her face. "You're royalty. Ancient bloodline. The kind the council can't ignore, the kind that outranks every alpha here." Lena's head spun. "That's not possible. My family, we're nobody. We've always been nobody." "Your wolf says otherwise," Rowan said. She looked at her hands, half expecting to see them glowing or change somehow, but they looked normal. She felt normal. Except she'd just shifted into a form that shouldn't exist. "Darius didn't just reject you," Rowan said slowly, like he was working through the implications in real time. "He rejected a silver wolf. That's not just cruelty or poor judgment, that's treason against the old laws. The council will—" A roar cut him off. Lena's head snapped up to see Darius standing at the edge of the clearing, his face twisted with rage and something that looked horribly like madness. "No," he snarled. "No, you don't get to be special. You don't get to win." "Darius," Marcus said, grabbing his arm. "Stop. You yielded. It's over." Darius shook him off. "She's a fraud, a fake. There are no silver wolves. There haven't been for 200 years. "We all just saw her shift," Rowan said. He stood, putting himself between Lena and Darius. "You can deny it all you want. Doesn't change what she is." "What she is," Darius said, "is mine. Bond marked. That doesn't change just because she sprouted some fancy fur." "The bond is broken," Rowan said. "You yielded. You have no claim." "I have every claim," Darius shouted. And then, before anyone could stop him, he shifted. His wolf was huge, dark brown and scarred from years of fighting. and he was charging straight at Lena. Rowan moved to intercept, but he was exhausted, injured, too slow. Lena acted on instinct. She shifted again, the transformation faster this time, smoother, and met Darius halfway. They collided with enough force to shake the ground. Darius was bigger, heavier, more experienced, but Lena was faster. And something else, something she didn't understand, was flowing through her, power, ancient and vast and completely beyond her control. She twisted, caught Darius by the throat, and threw him. He hit a tree with a sickening crack and slumped to the ground. The clearing went dead silent. Lena stood there, her silver fur gleaming in the moonlight, her chest heaving. She could feel every eye on her, could feel the weight of what had just happened settling over the crowd like snow. Darius shifted back to human form, coughing blood. Marcus and two others rushed to his side, and Lena shifted back, standing on shaky legs, that borrowed jacket still somehow wrapped around her shoulders. "He attacked after yielding," Rowan said. His voice carried across the clearing, cold and formal. "In front of witnesses. That's a violation of trial law." Garrett, the head counselor, had arrived at some point during the chaos. He stepped forward, his old face grave. "I saw it," he said. "We all saw it." He looked at Darius with something like disgust. "Darius Kane, you are stripped of your alpha status, effective immediately. Your pack will be placed under council supervision until a new leader can be chosen." Darius's face went white, then red. "You can't—" "I can," Garrett said, "and I have. Take him." Two council guards stepped forward, hauled Darius to his feet. He struggled, but he was too weak, too broken. As they dragged him past Lena, he looked at her one last time. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes," Lena said quietly. "It is." And then he was gone, dragged into the darkness, and it was truly, finally over. Bum! Lena's legs gave out. Rowan caught her before she hit the ground, scooped her up like she weighed nothing. "I've got you." "I think I'm going to pass out," she said. "That's allowed," Rowan said. His voice was soft, almost tender. "You just threw an alpha into a tree. You've earned it." Lena laughed. Or tried to. It came out more like a sob. The world was spinning, the bond scar was screaming, and somewhere deep inside, her wolf, her silver wolf, was humming with satisfaction. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she was in Rowan's office, lying on the couch with blankets piled on top of her. Mara was there, checking her pupils with a small light. "Welcome back," Mara said. "How long was I out?" 3 hours. Lena tried to sit up. Mara pushed her back down. "The bond?" Lena asked. "Severed," Mara said. "Completely. The moment you shifted the second time, it broke. Your wolf was strong enough to burn through it." Lena pressed a hand to her chest. The scar was still there. She could feel it, but it was cold now. Inert. Just a mark, not a wound. "Darius?" "In council custody," Mara said. "He won't bother you again." Lena closed her eyes, let that sink in. It was over, truly over. "Where's Rowan?" "Dealing with the aftermath," Mara said. "The Kane pack is in chaos. The council is trying to keep order. It's a mess." Lena nodded. Exhaustion was pulling at her, dragging her back down. "Rest," Mara said. "Everything else can wait." And for the first time in months, Lena let herself believe that. And for the first time in months, Lena let herself believe that. She woke to voices arguing in the next room. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back, the trial, the shift, the silver fur that shouldn't exist. She sat up slowly, her body aching in places she didn't know could ache, and realized she was still in Rowan's office. Dawn light was filtering through the curtains. The voices got louder. "Can't just expect us to accept this without proof," someone was saying. Male, unfamiliar. "You saw her shift." That was Rowan. His voice was tight with exhaustion and barely controlled anger. "What more proof do you need?" "Silver wolves are legend," a woman said. "Stories we tell children. There hasn't been a confirmed sighting in 2 centuries. "Then maybe your records are incomplete," Rowan shot back. Lena pushed the blankets aside and stood. Her legs were steadier than she expected. She crossed to the door, opened it quietly. Rowan's main office was packed. At least a dozen people. Alphas, council members. She recognized Garrett among them. They all turned when she appeared. The room went silent. "I'm sorry," Lena said. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not interrupting," Rowan said. He looked like he hadn't slept. Blood still crusted the cuts on his face, and his shirt was torn. "We were discussing you." "I gathered that," Lena said. She stepped into the room, very aware that she was wearing borrowed clothes that didn't fit, and her hair was a disaster. "What do you need from me?" Garrett cleared his throat. "Miss Viereck, what happened last night was unprecedented. A silver wolf manifestation. If it's genuine—" "If?" Lena said. "There are those who believe it may have been a trick," the unfamiliar woman said. She was tall, angular, with cold eyes. "Dye, illusion magic. There are ways to fake such things." Lena stared at her. "You think I faked it?" "I think it's convenient," the woman said. "You're facing exile, rejection, possible death, and suddenly you manifest a legendary bloodline. It strains credibility." "Then test me," Lena said. The words came out before she thought them through. "Whatever you need, blood tests, witnessed shifts. I don't care. Test me." The room stirred. Garrett leaned forward. "You'd submit to formal examination?" "Yes." "It would take weeks," the woman said. "Multiple tests, genetic analysis, historical verification." "I said yes," Lena repeated. She looked at Rowan. "I have nothing to hide." Rowan's expression was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes. Pride, maybe. Or relief. "Very well," Garrett said. "We'll convene a formal panel. In the meantime, Miss Viereck will remain in Hale territory under Alpha Rowan's protection." "She's not a prisoner," Rowan said flatly. "No one said she was," Garrett replied. "But until we verify her claims, she represents a significant unknown. Better she stays somewhere we can monitor the situation." Lena wanted to argue, but Rowan caught her eye and gave a tiny shake of his head. "Pick your battles." "Fine," she said. The meeting broke up after that. The Alphas and council members filed out, some casting curious glances at Lena, others looking openly skeptical. When the last one left, Rowan closed the door and leaned against it. "You didn't have to volunteer for testing," he said. "Yes, I did," Lena said. "If I don't, they'll never stop questioning it, and neither will I." "You don't know what you are?" Lena shook her head. "My mother never mentioned anything about silver wolves. My father died when I was young. As far as I knew, we were just ordinary." "There's nothing ordinary about you," Rowan said quietly. Lena felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I know what you meant," Rowan said. He pushed off the door, crossed to his desk. "But if this is real, if you really are Silver Wolf bloodline, everything changes. For you, for every pack in the region. How?" "Because Silver Wolves were royalty," Rowan said. "They didn't just lead packs, they led alliances. Entire regions answered to them. If you are what you appear to be, you outrank every alpha in this territory, including me." Lena's stomach dropped. "That's insane." "That's history," Rowan said. "And history has a way of mattering, whether we want it to or not." The tests began 3 days later. A team of specialists arrived from the council. Healers, historians, a geneticist who looked about 100 years old. They took blood samples, hair samples, made Lena shift repeatedly while they measured and documented and muttered among themselves. It was invasive and exhausting and deeply humiliating. "Can you shift just the hands?" one healer asked on the 4th day. Lena tried, failed, tried again. "No, it's all or nothing." "Interesting," the healer murmured, making notes. "Why is that interesting?" Lena asked. "Partial shifts are common in modern wolves," the healer explained. "But historical records suggest silver wolves shifted completely. No halfway states. It's one of the markers." "One of many, I assume," Lena said. The healer smiled thinly. "We're being thorough." Thorough was an understatement. They tested her endurance, her strength, her healing speed. They made her run obstacle courses in wolf form, fight trained opponents, solve complex problems. They pored over old genealogies, trying to trace her family line. And through it all, Rowan watched from the sidelines. He didn't interfere, didn't try to make it easier. But he was always there. A solid, steady presence that kept Lena grounded when the testing felt like it would break her. On the 7th day, she snapped. I'm done, she said, pulling away from the geneticist who was trying to examine her teeth. I need a break. We're not finished, the old man said. I don't care, Lena said. I've been poked and prodded for a week. I'm taking an hour. She walked out before anyone could argue. The forest behind the main hall was quiet, the afternoon sun filtering through the branches. Lena found a fallen log and sat, pressing her face into her hands. Her wolf was restless, agitated by all the forced shifting. She could feel it pacing inside her mind. They're not trying to torture you, Rowan's voice came from behind her. Lena didn't look up. Feels like it. He sat beside her, not quite touching. They need to be sure. If they declare you Silver Wolf without proper verification and they're wrong, it undermines everything. And if they're right, then you become the most important wolf in the Northern Territories, Rowan said. And your life gets a lot more complicated. Lena laughed bitterly. More complicated than being rejected, nearly killed, and discovering I'm apparently royalty. Hard to imagine. People will want things from you, Rowan said. Alliances, support, your endorsement. Every alpha with ambition will come calling. Is that why you're helping me? Lena asked. The question came out sharper than she intended. Because I might be useful? Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I helped you because you were dying on my border and it was the right thing to do. Everything else, the trial, the council, all of it, that came after. I don't give a damn what bloodline you carry, Lena. You could be nobody and I'd still... He stopped. Lena looked at him. You'd still what? His jaw worked. I'd still want you to stay. The words hung between them, heavy and fragile. Rowan, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know. This isn't about politics or power for me. It never was. Lena's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. So instead she reached out and took his hand. They sat like that for a while, not speaking, just existing in the same space. And for the first time since the testing began, Lena felt like she could breathe. The results came back on the 10th day. Garrett called a formal assembly in the main hall. Every alpha within 100 miles attended, along with council members, pack representatives, and what felt like half the territory. Lena stood beside Rowan at the front, her stomach in knots. Garrett rose, a thick folder in his hands. After extensive testing and analysis, he said, his voice carrying across the packed hall, we have reached a conclusion regarding Lena Vierek's bloodline. The room held its breath. The genetic markers are consistent with historical silver wolf DNA, Garrett continued. The shift pattern matches documented cases, and we've traced her maternal line back 6 generations to a family that disappeared during the purge of 1823. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. It is the council's determination that Lena Vierek is, in fact, a silver wolf. The first confirmed case in 203 years. The hall erupted. Lena felt the floor tilt. Rowan's hand found her elbow, steadying her. Furthermore, Garrett said, raising his voice over the noise, under the old laws, Silver Wolf bloodline carries certain rights and responsibilities. Miss Vierek, as the only living Silver Wolf, you are entitled to claim a seat on the regional council. You would hold veto power over territorial disputes and the authority to call for leadership challenges. I don't want that, Lena said. Her voice came out small. Garrett looked at her. It's not a matter of want. It's birthright. I don't know the first thing about council politics, Lena said. I was a nobody in my pack. I can't. You don't have to accept immediately, Garrett said. But the offer stands. And more than that, it's expected. The packs need leadership, real leadership, not power-hungry alphas like Darius Kane. The mention of Darius sent a cold spike through Lena's chest. What about him? What happens now? He's been formally stripped of his title, Garrett said. The Kane pack is in transition. They need a new alpha. Someone strong enough to rebuild what he destroyed. Marcus could do it, Lena said. He's fair. The pack trusts him. Marcus has already declined, Garrett said. He says he's not alpha material. Then promote someone else. There is no one else, Garrett said. Darius drove out or broke anyone with potential. The pack is rudderless. Lena's mind raced. An idea was forming, dangerous and probably insane. What if we didn't replace him? The room went quiet. Explain, Garrett said. What if the Cane Pack merged with the Hail Pack? Lena said. She looked at Rowan. Temporarily, just until they stabilize. Rowan's already proven he can lead fairly. His pack is strong. They could provide structure while the Cane Wolves rebuild. That's never been done, the angular woman, Counselor Voss, said. Two packs don't just merge. Why not? Lena asked. If both sides agree, if it's in everyone's best interest. It would set a precedent, Voss said. Good, Lena said. Maybe we need new precedents. The old ways aren't working. Darius proved that. Rowan was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. You're serious? Yes. It would double my territory, Rowan said. Double my responsibilities. And there's no guarantee the Cane Wolves would accept me. Then we make them an offer they can't refuse, Lena said. She turned to the crowd, found faces she recognized from the Cane Pack, people who'd testified for her, people who'd suffered under Darius. What if Rowan took leadership, but the Con Pack kept their identity, their traditions? They'd be partners, not absorbed, equals. Marcus stepped forward. He looked exhausted, older than he had 2 weeks ago. You're asking us to trust an alpha we've been enemies with for a decade. I'm asking you to trust an alpha who fights fair, Lena said, who doesn't punish weakness, who actually cares about his people. And what do you get out of this? Marcus asked. Why do you care what happens to us? Because you deserve better than Darius, Lena said simply. And because I know what it's like to be thrown away. I won't let that happen to an entire pack if I can help it. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Rowan. If we agree to this, and I'm not saying we will, what would you want in return? Loyalty, Rowan said, and honest work. I won't ask you to forget who you are, but I will ask you to contribute, to pull your weight, to be part of something bigger than one man's ego. And if it doesn't work, Marcus asked, then we dissolve the partnership, Rowan said. No hard feelings. You find your own alpha, and we part ways. Marcus turned to the Cane Wolves clustered behind him. They conferred in low voices. Lena held her breath. Finally, Marcus turned back. We'll take it to a vote. Give us 3 days. Fair enough, Rowan said. The 3 days felt like 3 years. Lena threw herself into work, helping repair the damage from the attack, organizing supplies, doing anything to keep her mind occupied. The Hail Pack had accepted her presence easily enough, but she could feel the weight of expectations building. People looked at her differently now, with respect, with hope, with pressure. Sarah found her in the storage barn on the second day, cataloging medical supplies. You don't have to do this, the girl said. I like being useful, Lena said. That's not what I mean, Sarah said. The council thing, the bloodline stuff. You don't owe anyone anything. Lena set down the clipboard she'd been using. Don't I? These people, your pack, they saved my life. If I can help them, help the region, shouldn't I? Not if it makes you miserable, Sarah said. I'm not miserable, Lena said. I'm just scared. What if I'm not good enough? What if I screw it up? Then you screw it up, Sarah said with the blunt honesty of youth, and you try again. That's what living is. Lena smiled despite herself. When did you get so wise? I've been watching you, Sarah said. You survived the impossible. You made an alpha yield. You manifested a legendary bloodline. If you can do all that, you can handle some council meetings. It's not the same. It's exactly the same, Sarah said. You're just scared because it's new, but you're good at new. You've proven that. After she left, Lena sat with those words. You're good at new. Maybe she was. She'd certainly had enough practice. The Cane Pack's vote came back on the evening of the third day. They agreed, 73-21 in favor of the merger. The integration began immediately. Rowan organized joint patrols, combined training sessions, worked with Marcus to create a leadership structure that gave the Cane Wolves representation. It was messy and complicated and occasionally explosive, but it was working. And somewhere in the chaos, Lena found her place. She wasn't an alpha, wasn't a warrior, but she was good with people, good at listening, at finding common ground, at spotting problems before they became crises. She became the bridge between the two packs, the one person both sides trusted. Rowan noticed. You're a natural mediator, he said one evening. They were reviewing patrol schedules in his office, the map spread between them covered in markers and notes. I'm just doing what needs doing, Lena said. That's leadership, Rowan said. Real leadership. Not the posturing alpha bullshit, actually solving problems. Lena looked up. Is that a compliment? It's an observation, Rowan said. But he was smiling. They'd been dancing around each other for weeks now, ever since that moment in the forest, neither quite ready to name what was building between them, but both feeling it. Rowan, Lena said. Yeah? When this is all settled, the merger, the council stuff, everything, what happens to us? He set down the marker he'd been holding. What do you want to happen? I don't know, Lena said honestly. The bond with Darius, that was fate. Or supposed to be. It was chosen for me. And it nearly destroyed me. I don't know if I trust fate anymore. Then don't, Rowan said. He came around the desk, stopped in front of her. Don't trust fate, trust this. He took her hand, placed it over his heart. Trust what you feel. What you choose. Not what some cosmic force decided. Lena's breath caught. What if I choose wrong again? Then you choose again, Rowan said. But you don't get to not choose at all. That's not living. That's just surviving. I've been surviving for so long, Lena whispered. I know, Rowan said. But you don't have to anymore. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met, careful and questioning, and something inside Lena's chest cracked open. Not the bond scar, something new, something that was entirely hers. When they broke apart, she was crying. Hey, Rowan said, thumbing away the tears. What's wrong? Nothing, Lena said. Everything's right. That's the problem. I don't know how to handle things being right. Rowan pulled her into his arms, and she let herself be held, let herself feel safe, let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. The formal council session was scheduled for the following month. Lena spent the intervening weeks preparing, studying pack law, reviewing historical cases, learning the political landscape. Garrett sent over a mountain of documents, and Lena read until her eyes burned. You don't have to memorize everything, Mara said one afternoon, finding Lena surrounded by books in the library. I need to know what I'm talking about, Lena said. I can't walk in there ignorant. You're not ignorant, Mara said. You're inexperienced. There's a difference. Tell that to Counselor Voss, Lena muttered. The woman had made it clear she thought Lena was a fraud and an upstart. Voss is a relic, Mara said. She's been fighting change for 30 years. Don't let her get in your head. Easier said than done, but Lena tried. The night before the council session, she couldn't sleep. She found herself walking the perimeter, her wolf restless and anxious. The silver fur still felt strange, foreign, like wearing someone else's skin. Can't sleep either? She turned to find Rowan approaching from the direction of the main hall. He looked as wired as she felt. Nervous? She asked. Terrified, he admitted. Tomorrow changes everything. For both of us, Lena said. They walked in silence for a while, following the boundary markers. The night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. Whatever happens tomorrow, Rowan said finally, I want you to know, I'm proud of you. What you've done here, how you've handled everything, you're stronger than you know. I don't feel strong, Lena said. Strength isn't about not being scared, Rowan said. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. Lena stopped walking, turned to face him. I'm choosing you, in case that wasn't clear. Not because of fate or bonds or politics. I'm choosing you because you make me want to be brave. Rowan's expression softened. I choose you too, for what it's worth. It's worth everything, Lena said. They stood there in the moonlight, and Lena felt something settle inside her, a certainty she'd never felt before. This was right. This was hers, and she would fight to keep it. The council chamber was packed. Every alpha in the region attended, along with their seconds, advisors, and what felt like half their packs. Lena sat in the front row, Rowan beside her, trying to keep her hands from shaking. Garrett called the session to order. We're here to formally recognize Lena Virek's bloodline status and discuss the implications for regional governance, he announced. Miss Virek, Please step forward. Lena stood, walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed her. Under the old laws, Garrett continued, Silver Wolf bloodline carries the authority to oversee territorial disputes, call for leadership reviews, and veto decisions deemed harmful to pack welfare. Do you accept these responsibilities? Lena took a breath. I do, but I have conditions. The room stirred. Conditions, Voss said sharply. This is not a negotiation. Everything's a negotiation, Lena said. She looked at Garrett. I'll accept the seat, but I want the laws updated. No more incomplete bonds. No more rejected mates left to suffer. And no more alphas who abuse their power getting away with it because of politics. Those are significant changes, Garrett said. They're necessary changes, Lena said. We've been operating on laws written centuries ago. The world has changed. We need to change with it. And if the council disagrees, Voss challenged. Then I use my veto power, Lena said calmly. Repeatedly, until you listen. The room erupted in argument. Some alphas shouted support. Others called her arrogant, naive, dangerous. Garrett banged his gavel. Order! The noise died down. These proposals will require discussion, Garrett said, but they're not unreasonable. I move that we form a committee to review PAC law and recommend updates. All in favor? Hands went up. Not all of them, but enough. Motion carries, Garrett said. He looked at Lena. Welcome to the council, Miss Virick. May your tenure be long and productive. The chamber broke into applause, some genuine, some grudging. Lena walked back to her seat on shaking legs. Rowan caught her hand under the table, squeezed once. You did it, he murmured. We did it, Lena corrected. And for the first time since crossing that ridge months ago, she let herself believe that maybe she hadn't just survived. Maybe she'd actually won. Maybe she'd actually won. The thought followed Lena through the rest of the council session, through the stiff congratulations from alphas who'd barely acknowledged her existence a month ago, through the endless reception where she smiled until her face hurt. She'd won a seat, won recognition, won the right to be heard. But winning a battle wasn't the same as winning the war. That reality hit her 3 weeks later when the first real challenge landed on her desk. The Kane Pack, still technically merged with Hale territory, was fracturing. A group of older wolves, loyalists who'd thrived under Darius's regime, were pushing back against Rowan's leadership. They wanted autonomy, wanted to split off and reform under their own alpha. They're calling themselves the True Kane, Marcus said. He'd come to Rowan's office looking grim. About 30 wolves, led by Victor Soren. Lena knew that name. Victor had been one of Darius's inner circle, a brutal enforcer who'd helped carry out half the cruelties Darius had inflicted. What do they want? Rowan asked. Territory, Marcus said. They're claiming the eastern quarter of the old Kane lands. Say it's their right as original pack members. That land is under council jurisdiction until the merger is finalized, Lena said. They can't just claim it. They're not asking permission, Marcus said. They've already moved in, set up camp, posted guards. Rowan swore. That's a direct challenge. It's more than that, Marcus said. They're saying if you try to remove them, they'll fight. And they're recruiting, promising wolves who join them freedom from Hale oppression. Lena's stomach sank. How many have joined? 15 so far, Marcus said. Maybe more. It's hard to get accurate numbers. This is my fault, Lena said quietly. I pushed for the merger. I said it would work. This isn't on you, Rowan said. Victor's been looking for an excuse since Darius fell. He just finally found one. What are our options? Lena asked. Force them out, Rowan said. It's still legally my territory. I have the right. That'll start a war, Marcus said. And it'll prove Victor right that you're a tyrant just like Darius. Then what do you suggest? Rowan asked. Marcus hesitated. Let them go. What? Give them the eastern quarter, Marcus said. Let them have their autonomy. If they want to rebuild the old Kane Pack under Victor, let them try. That's a terrible idea, Lena said. Victor's worse than Darius. He'll turn that territory into a nightmare. Maybe, Marcus said. But if we force them to stay, they'll poison everything from the inside. At least this way, the damage is contained. Rowan looked at Lena. What do you think? She thought about the wolves who'd joined Victor. about the ones who might follow if given the choice, about the precedent it would set. I think we need a third option, she said. The idea came to her that night. She was lying in bed, Rowan's bed now, though that was still new enough to feel strange, staring at the ceiling. Rowan was asleep beside her, one arm draped across her waist. She could hear his steady breathing, feel the warmth of him against her side. And she thought about Victor, about Darius, about every alpha who'd ever ruled through fear and called it strength. They'd all made the same mistake. They'd thought power came from control, from dominance, from making people too scared to challenge them. But real power came from trust. She sat up carefully, trying not to wake Rowan, and grabbed the notebook she'd started keeping on the nightstand, started writing. When Rowan woke an hour later, she had a plan. "You're insane," he said after she explained it. "Probably," Lena agreed, "but it might work. It might get you killed." "Only if I'm wrong about Victor," Lena said. "And I don't think I am." Rowan sat up, ran a hand through his hair. "You want to go there, alone, and offer him a deal?" "Yes." "He hates you," Rowan said. "You're everything he despises. A rejected mate who rose above her station, a silver wolf who appeared out of nowhere. He'll see it as an insult." "Then I'll have to change his mind," Lena said. "And if you can't?" Lena met his eyes. "Then you were right, and I was insane. But I have to try." Rowan stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. "I hate this plan." "I know, but I trust you," he said. "So if you really think this is the way—" "I do." He kissed her, hard and desperate. "Come back to me." "Always," Lena promised. She rode out at dawn with an escort of 3 wolves, enough to show she wasn't sneaking, not enough to seem like a threat. Marcus insisted on coming. Sarah volunteered and wouldn't take no for answer. The third was Ivan, the guard who'd testified at her hearing. They reached Victor's camp by mid-morning. It was exactly what she'd expected. Rough shelters, makeshift defenses, wolves standing guard with weapons that looked like they'd been hastily assembled. Everything about it screamed desperation dressed up as strength. The guard stopped them at the perimeter. "State your business," one said, young, nervous. "I'm here to speak with Victor Soren," Lena said. "Tell him Lena Vierik wants to negotiate." The guard disappeared, came back 5 minutes later. "He'll see you, but only you. The others stay here." "Not happening," Marcus said. "It's fine," Lena said. She dismounted, handed him the reins. "Wait here. If I'm not back in an hour, go get Rowan." "Lena." "I'll be fine," she said with more confidence than she felt. She followed the guard into camp. Wolves watched her pass, their expressions ranging from hostile to curious. She kept her head up, her shoulders back, showed no fear. Victor was waiting in what passed for a command tent. He was a big man, scarred and graying, with the look of someone who'd spent his life fighting. He didn't stand when she entered. "The Silver Wolf," he said. "Come to beg me to submit?" "No," Lena said. "Come to offer you a choice." That got his attention. "I'm listening." "You want autonomy," Lena said. "You want to rebuild the compact the way it used to be. I understand that. Do you?" Victor's smile was ugly. "You, who destroyed it?" "Darius destroyed it," Lena said. "I just survived him. There's a difference." "Semantics." "Truth," Lena said. She sat down across from him without being invited. "You can hate me all you want, Victor, but we both know the real problem. The merger was forced. The Kane Wolves never got to choose their future." "Finally," Victor said, "some sense." "So here's my offer," Lena said. "I'll go to the council. I'll petition for the Kane Pact to be reinstated as independent territory. You can elect your own alpha, set your own rules, govern however you want." Victor's eyes narrowed. "In exchange for what?" "Peace," Lena said. "You agree to abide by regional laws. No raids, no challenges, no trying to destabilize the other packs. You get your independence, but you play by the same rules as everyone else. And if I refuse?" "Then Rowan removes you by force," Lena said. "You know he can do it. You've seen him fight. You'll lose, and you'll lose everything. Your followers, your territory, your lives." Victor leaned back. You're threatening me. I'm giving you options, Lena said. Real options. More than Darius ever gave anyone. Why? Victor asked. Why offer this? You could crush us and be done with it. Because I don't want to crush you, Lena said. I want you to succeed. I want every wolf in this region to have the chance to build something better than what Darius left behind. But you can't do that through violence and fear. That's his way, and his way failed. Victor was quiet for a long moment. You really believe that? Yes. You're either very brave or very stupid, Victor said. Probably both, Lena admitted. Victor laughed. It sounded rusty, like he hadn't done it in years. What guarantee do I have? That the council will approve this? That you won't just lock us up the moment we let our guard down? You have my word, Lena said, and I have veto power on the council. If they try to block it, I'll force it through. The word of a silver wolf, Victor said. That's supposed to mean something? It used to, Lena said. Maybe it can again. Victor studied her. She met his gaze steadily, didn't flinch. I'll need to discuss it with my people, he said finally. Take your time, Lena said. But Victor, whatever you decide, decide soon, because the longer this drags out, the more wolves get hurt. And I don't think either of us wants that. She stood, headed for the exit. Victor's voice stopped her. You're not what I expected, he said. Good, Lena said. I'm tired of meeting expectations. Victor's answer came 2 days later. He agreed. The council meeting to approve the reinstatement was brutal. Councillor Voss led the opposition, arguing that splitting the territory would create instability, that Victor couldn't be trusted, that Lena was being naive. She's giving away power, Voss said, power that belongs to Alpha Rowan by right of trial. This sets a dangerous precedent. The precedent we're setting, Lena said, standing to address the chamber, is that wolves have a say in their own governance. That's not dangerous. That's democracy. Democracy is chaos, Voss snapped. Packs need strong leadership, clear hierarchy. Packs need leadership they choose, Lena said, not leadership forced on them. We're not cattle, counselor. We're thinking beings with the right to determine our own futures. And when Victor's pack descends into chaos, Voss asked, when they start raiding neighbors or breaking treaties, what then? Then they face the consequences, Lena said. The same consequences any pack would face, but we give them the chance to succeed first. The debate went on for hours, but in the end, Lena used her veto power. The motion passed. Victor's pack, officially renamed the East Ridge Pack, was recognized as independent. They held elections 3 weeks later. Victor won by a landslide, and to everyone's surprise, including Lena's, he governed well, firmly but fairly, nothing like Darius. You were right, Rowan said one evening, watching the sunset from their porch. The merged Hale-Kane territory was finally stable, and the East Ridge Pack had settled into their new autonomy. About giving them the choice. I got lucky, Lena said. No, Rowan said. You understood something the rest of us didn't. That fear breeds resentment, but trust breeds loyalty. Lena leaned against him. I learned that from you. I'm pretty sure I learned it from you, Rowan said. They sat in comfortable silence, and Lena felt something she hadn't felt in so long she'd almost forgotten what it was called. Peace. The bond scar faded completely over the next few months. Mara examined it one morning and declared it dormant. It'll always be there, she said, but it's just tissue now. No magic, no connection. So it's really over, Lena said. It's really over, Mara confirmed. Lena pressed her hand to her chest. The scar was still visible, a thin silver line across her heart. But Mara was right. It was just a mark now, a reminder of what she'd survived, not a wound that was still killing her. That afternoon, she found herself walking to the ridge. She hadn't been back since the night she'd collapsed at the border. The path was overgrown, the rocks slick with ice. But she made the climb anyway, her wolf lending her strength. At the top, she stood looking out over the valley, the Hale Pack below, the East Ridge territory to the east, the mountains stretching endlessly in every direction. She'd crossed this ridge alone, broken and dying, with nothing but desperation driving her forward. Now she stood here whole, stronger than she'd ever been, Not because of the Silver Wolf bloodline or the council seat or any of the titles people kept trying to give her, but because she'd chosen to keep fighting. Thought I might find you here, Rowan's voice came from behind her. She turned. He was climbing the last few feet of the path, his breath misting in the cold air. How did you know where I'd be? She asked. Because this is where it started, Rowan said. Seemed like the kind of place you'd go to think. He reached her, and they stood side by side, looking out over the territory. Do you ever regret it? Lena asked. Taking me in? All the chaos that came after? Not even once, Rowan said. You? Lena thought about it. About everything she'd lost. Everything she'd gained. No, she said. I thought I would. Thought I'd spend my life looking back and wondering what if. But I don't. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Good, Rowan said. He pulled something from his pocket, a small wooden box. Because I have something to ask you. Lena's breath caught. I know we're not doing the fated mate thing, Rowan said, and I know you don't trust bonds anymore, but I trust this. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring. I trust us, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that choice is stronger than fate, if you'll have me. Lena's eyes filled with tears. That's not a question. Lena Vierik, Rowan said, and she could hear the smile in his voice even though her vision was blurred. Will you marry me? Yes, Lena said. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she kissed him there on the ridge where her old life had ended and her new one had begun. They were married on the first day of spring. Not a huge ceremony. Neither of them wanted that. Just the Pax, the council, and the people who mattered. They held it in the clearing where the trial had taken place because Lena insisted on reclaiming that space for something beautiful. Marcus officiated. Sarah stood as Lena's witness. Mara cried through the whole thing. Do you, Rowan Hale, take this woman as your chosen mate? Marcus asked. I do, Rowan said. His hand was warm in hers. And do you, Lena Vierik, take this man as your chosen mate? I do, Lena said. Then by the power vested in me by pack law and common sense, Marcus said, grinning, I pronounce you bound by choice. You may kiss your mate. Rowan pulled her close, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Afterward, there was food and music and dancing that lasted until dawn. Lena found herself pulled into conversation after conversation, pack members sharing stories, asking advice, treating her not like some mythical silver wolf, but like someone they knew, someone they trusted. At one point, she ended up talking to a young woman from the East Ridge pack. I just wanted to say thank you, the woman said, for giving us the chance to choose. My mate and I, we were going to leave the region entirely. We didn't think there was a future here, but now, she smiled. Now there is. I'm glad, Lena said, and she meant it. Late in the evening, Rowan found her sitting on the steps of the main hall, watching the celebration from a distance. Hiding? He asked. Breathing, Lena said. It's a lot. Too much? No, Lena said. Just right. I'm just taking it in. A year ago, I was dying in a healer's cabin. Now, look at this. Rowan sat beside her. You built this. You know that, right? This peace, this community. It exists because you refuse to give up. We built it, Lena corrected. You, me, Marcus, everyone who chose to believe it was possible. Fair enough, Rowan said. He took her hand, played with the ring on her finger. So what's next for the legendary Silver Wolf? Lena laughed. I hate when people call me that. You're going to have to get used to it. Maybe, Lena said, but I'm not leading as a Silver Wolf. I'm leading as me. Just Lena, who happens to have silver fur. Just Lena, Rowan repeated. The woman who crossed the knife ridge alone and lived to tell about it. The woman who had help, Lena said, from a stubborn alpha who didn't know when to quit. We're a good team, Rowan said. The best, Lena agreed. They sat there watching their people celebrate, and Lena felt the future unfold in front of her. Not predetermined, not controlled by bonds or fate or ancient bloodlines. Just open, possible, hers to choose. But 6 months later, the council implemented the first of Lena's reforms. The Incomplete Bond Protection Act made it illegal to reject a mate without immediately severing the connection. Any alpha who tried would face formal charges and possible removal from power. It's a good start, Garrett said at the signing ceremony, but there's more work to be done. There's always more work, Lena said. That's the point. She'd settled into her council role more comfortably than she'd expected. She wasn't the loudest voice in the chamber, but she was consistent, fair. And when she put her foot down, people listened. Councillor Voss had grudgingly admitted after the Bond Protection Act passed that Lena wasn't completely incompetent. Coming from Voss, it was practically a love letter. The merged Hailcon pack thrived. They'd officially renamed themselves the Northern Alliance, with Rowan as Alpha and a council of representatives from both original packs. It was messy and democratic and nothing like the old hierarchy. It worked. East Ridge Pack had even opened trade relations, sending delegations to discuss resource sharing and mutual defense. Victor showed up personally, which surprised everyone. "Never thought I'd be negotiating with you," he told Lena over coffee in Rowan's office. "Life's full of surprises," Lena said. "That it is," Victor agreed. He studied her for a moment. "You know, I was wrong about you. I thought you were weak, playing at power. But you're the strongest alpha I've ever met." "I'm not an alpha," Lena said. "You're more alpha than half the wolves who carry the title," Victor said. "You lead without needing to dominate. That's real strength." After he left, Lena sat with those words. She'd spent so long thinking she wasn't enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't powerful enough, wasn't worthy enough. Darius had hammered that belief into her until it felt like truth. But it never had been. She'd always been enough. She just hadn't known it yet. Winter came early that year. Lena stood at the window of their bedroom, hers and Rowan's now, officially, the space they'd built together, and watched snow fall across the valley. The pack was settling in for the cold months. Stores were full, defenses were strong, everyone was prepared. She felt arms wrap around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" Rowan asked. "Everything," Lena said. "Nothing. How far we've come." "We've come pretty far," Rowan agreed. "I'm pregnant," Lena said. The words hung in the air for a moment. Then Rowan spun her around, his eyes wide. "What?" "I'm pregnant," Lena repeated. "Mara confirmed it yesterday. I'm about 6 weeks along." Rowan's face went through about 15 different expressions in 3 seconds. Shock, joy, terror. "Are you... is it..." "I'm healthy," Lena said. "The baby's healthy. Mara says there's no reason to worry." "I'm gonna worry anyway," Rowan said. But he was smiling. "We're having a baby." "We're having a baby," Lena confirmed. He picked her up and spun her around, and she laughed, feeling lighter than air. When he set her down, his expression grew serious. "What if they inherit the Silver Wolf bloodline? What if—" "Then they'll be extraordinary," Lena said, "just like their father. And we'll love them and support them and teach them that their worth isn't defined by what they are, but by who they choose to be." "You're going to be an amazing mother," Rowan said. "We're going to be amazing parents," Lena corrected. That night they told the pack. The celebration rivaled their wedding. Sarah cried. Marcus made an awkward speech about responsibility and legacy. Mara started planning the nursery before dessert was served. And Lena stood in the center of it all, Rowan's hand in hers, and felt the weight of her past finally lift. She'd been rejected, abandoned, left to die. She'd survived. More than that, she'd thrived. And now she was building a future. Not just for herself, but for the child growing inside her. For the pack she'd helped unite. For every wolf who'd ever been told they weren't enough. The baby was born on a clear summer night. A daughter. Healthy and screaming and absolutely perfect. They named her Alara, after Lena's mother. When Lena held her for the first time, she saw silver fur already forming along the baby's tiny arms. The bloodline had passed down. "She's beautiful," Rowan said. He was crying, which was something Lena had never seen before. "She is," Lena agreed. "Do you think she'll shift early?" Rowan asked. "Like you did?" "I don't know," Lena said. "But whatever happens, we'll handle it, together." Alara opened her eyes then, pale silver, just like Lena's wolf, and looked directly at her mother. And Lena felt something click into place, a certainty that went deeper than bone. This was why she'd survived, why she'd fought, why she'd refused to break. Not for power or recognition or revenge. For this. For the chance to hold her daughter and promise her a better world. "I won't let anyone make you feel like you're not enough," Lena whispered. "I promise you that. You are enough. You will always be enough." Rowan leaned in, kissed Lena's temple. "She's lucky to have you." "We're lucky to have each other," Lena said. Years passed. Elara grew into a fierce, brilliant child who shifted into her silver wolf form for the first time at age 5 and promptly used it to win every race in the pack. She had Rowan's stubbornness and Lena's empathy, and she was already showing signs of leadership that made the council nervous. "She's going to be a handful," Marcus said, watching 6-year-old Elara organize the other children into what appeared to be a miniature military formation. "She's going to change the world," Lena said. The Northern Alliance flourished. Trade routes expanded. Alliances formed with packs as far south as the coastal territories. The council's reforms spread region by region, pack by pack. It was slow work, but it was working. Darius died in council custody 3 years after his trial. Natural causes, they said. Lena felt nothing when she heard. Not satisfaction, not grief, just a distant acknowledgement that a chapter had closed. Victor visited regularly, usually bringing trade proposals, but sometimes just showing up to argue politics with Lena over dinner. They'd become unlikely friends. "You know you're going to be known as the Luna who changed everything," he said one evening. "I'm not a Luna," Lena said automatically. "You're Rowan's mate," Victor said. "That makes you a Luna." "I'm a council member who happens to be married to an alpha," Lena corrected. "There's a difference." "Semantics," Victor said, grinning. "Truth," Lena shot back. They both laughed. On the 10th anniversary of the night she'd collapsed at the Hailpack border, Lena climbed the knife ridge one more time. It was easier now. Her wolf made the journey simple, but she went on foot anyway, feeling every step, remembering what it had been like that night, the cold, the pain, the absolute certainty that she was going to die. At the top, she stood at the cairn that marked the border, the same stones she'd collapsed beside. Rowan was waiting for her there. "I knew you'd come today," he said. 10 years, Lena said. "It doesn't feel that long." "Feels like yesterday," Rowan said. "Feels like forever." "Both," Lena agreed. They stood looking out over the valley. 2 territories had become 4, the Northern Alliance, East Ridge, the Westland Collective, the Southern Reach, all working together. All following the precedent Lena had set, that strength came from choice, not coercion. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you turned me away that night?" Lena asked. "No," Rowan said, "because it never would have happened. The moment I saw you, I knew I couldn't let you die." "Why?" Lena asked. It was a question she'd asked a dozen times over the years, and his answer was always slightly different. "Because you'd already decided you were going to live," Rowan said. "And that kind of determination, that kind of strength, it deserves to be protected, to be honored." Lena leaned into him. "I was so scared that night." "I know. I thought I was going to die alone." "But you didn't," Rowan said. "You lived, and you built something beautiful." "We built it," Lena said. "All of us." A howl rose from the valley below, then another and another, the packs calling to each other across the distances, a nightly ritual that had started years ago and become tradition. Lena tilted her head back and added her voice to the chorus. Her silver wolf sang out across the mountains, strong and clear and unbreakable. Rowan joined her, and their voices twined together. When the howling faded, Lena looked at the scar on her chest one last time, the mark that had nearly killed her, the wound that had forced her to choose between death and the unknown. She'd chosen the unknown, and it had given her everything. "Ready to go home?" Rowan asked. Lena smiled. "I'm already there." They descended the ridge together, hand in hand, leaving the past behind and walking into a future they'd built with their own hands. A future where strength meant compassion, where power meant responsibility, where being enough was simply a matter of choosing to believe it. The woman who'd once been rejected as worthless had become the most respected leader in the Northern Territories. Not because of her bloodline or her title or her position, but because she'd refused to break. And in refusing, she'd shown everyone else that they didn't have to break either. That was her legacy. That was her truth. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.